Hello, everyone. Let's head to our mats, getting all of our props, many props in restorative. I recommend, multiples of things like pillows and blankets and blocks if you have them, or hardback books if you're using something like that. Certainly wall space is always welcome, and or in place of that, chairs or stools or the edge of your bed or the edge of a couch are great props to utilize at home. And so today we're gonna focus mainly on lengthening front body. And so that will look like lengthening hip flexors and a little bit of quads. And it will look like chest openers. I use that in quotes because what does that even really mean? We're not actually opening our chest, but we're broadening across the front of the collarbones, the chest, and the anterior shoulder girdle. And so whenever we're opening something, or I like to say lengthening something, the opposite muscle group or body part will be compressing or contracting. And so utilize your breath to find as much relaxation and letting go of muscular contraction in these restorative shapes as we build them. Which, be gentle with yourself because it's hard to do, especially if you've been sitting at your desk in hip flexion and kind of rounding your body forward and closing your shoulders. If you've been doing that for the majority of the day or the majority of your life, which most of us spend a lot of time in hip flexion, driving, sitting at the desk, right? So those are habits and behaviors of our daily modern life that we're just doing a little bit of work to counteract. So we're going to start off working with the hips, front of the hips. And as we come down to our backs, we're going to want to have our pillows or a stack of blankets close by that we can draw underneath the back of our pelvis to lift the hips up just a little bit. Before we go there, what I would say is you can absolutely do this practice in bed. And if you're lying on the hard surface of a floor, I always like to take a blanket and fold it underneath the back of my head. And then just watch me here for a second. Okay, so I'm coming down to my back, and then I'm taking this blanket, excuse me, kitty, and I'm going to just tuck and roll a couple of times, depends on the curve of your cervical spine, the back of your neck, so that my cervical spine gets this really nice support from the roll of the blanket. So I'm not elevating my head up really high. My chin's not jutting in towards my chest. My spine is still pretty neutral, but I'm supporting my cervical spine and giving a little padding to the back of my head. Okay. You could use a pillow if you want, but that's going to change the relationship of your spine to your hips. So I recommend a blanket is my preference. Let's just spend some time here to drop into our practice. You can widen your feet out to the outer edges of your mat, let your knees knock in. So create some length in the lumbar spine. Place your hands on your belly and your rib cage. Start to close your eyes. You can certainly, if you prefer, if it feels safer, keep the eyes open, but try to soften the gaze a little bit. Maybe find something to focus on and let that thing that you're looking at become fuzzy. Start to breathe in through the nose if you can. Breathe out through the mouth. Audible sigh, let it go. Breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Let's try that breath once more. Inhale through the nose. And out through the mouth. And then as long as you can breathe okay through the nose, you can start to gently seal the lips, taking the air in and out through the nasal passageway. Start to notice what parts of the body are in contact with whatever you're lying on. Soles of the feet, back of the pelvis, the shoulder blades, maybe the elbows or whatever part of the arms that are in contact with your base, and the back of the head. You can notice things here like temperature and texture of material against your skin. A few more breaths here. If you have your feet wide, start to heel toe them towards about hip width distance apart. And then press down into your feet, lift your hips up, and then take your prop, whatever you're going to use. It could be a stack of blankets or pillows or blocks if you have them. You're sliding that underneath the base of the pelvis. And so try to get a little bit lower than the low back so that the whole glute hip compartment is elevated above the heart. So we're putting ourselves into a very gentle inversion. We'll just take a moment to pause here, let the pelvis be heavy, making any adjustments if you need. I like to think about scooping my tailbone under and letting the back of the pelvis be relatively long and flat on its prop. So once that's set, you can leave it as is. And we'll just start off by hugging the right knee into the chest. And then maybe you can extend the left leg long. That could be a lot on the left hip flexor. So if you need to rebend the knee and plant the foot, go ahead. So there's this option here. There's this range of motion to either extend through the left leg or keep the knee bent. Both are equally valuable. As you're hugging the right knee into the chest, you can interlace the hands around the back of the right thigh or over the top of the right shin. But choosing what you can do in your body at this point in time while still relaxing the shoulders, the neck, the throat, and all the muscles of the face. Okay, so let's all take our hands, interlace them behind the right thigh. So hands interlaced behind the right thigh. And that's like I'm making a little stirrup for my thigh to rest into. So my arms are starting to move towards straight. My shoulder blades are still heavy. And all I'm going to do from here is press my right foot up towards the ceiling. It might be that that right leg does not get all the way straight, and that's okay because that's really not the point here. And then I'm going to let my right knee rebend. So right thigh is heavy in the stirrup of the hands. You're making a little cradle. Right foot's going to extend up towards the ceiling, and then the knee is going to bend again. And we're just going to do that a few times. You might add a little breath to movement. So maybe it's the inhale that sweeps the foot up. And it's the exhale that flexes the knee. Try it twice more. Good. Now we're going to release our hands, let the arms stretch out wide, bending the right knee, plant the right foot. Okay, so start off here. Maybe your left leg is extended and maybe your right foot is planted. So I have a bend in my right knee and my left leg is long. Broadening across the collarbone, relaxing the shoulders down the back. Can you swallow here? Notice the breath moving up and down the spine. This is a great place to stay, and or if you want to, you can extend the right leg forward. So if the right leg is an extension, same as left leg, that's putting our low back into a mild back bend, and sometimes that feels like a lot. Okay, so if it feels like too much, a couple of things. Rebend that right knee. If needed, rebend the left knee. Or you can decrease the height of whatever prop is underneath your sacrum. So wherever you are in this many options step, the idea here is to let go of any muscular contraction. Let your body soften completely into this shape, whatever shape you are making. And notice how you feel. And notice how you feel on both a physiological level, like in your physical body. Where do you feel sensation? What is the quality of that sensation? Is it something you can relax into, breathe into, but not something that you're forcing? There should not be a lot of effort here. A few more breaths in your current shape. Okay, we're going to back out of this step by step. So try to stay with me and go slow, especially if you're in full extension through the front of the body. Okay, so start by bending the right knee, planting that foot. And then bending the left knee, planting that foot. Pause there. Okay, so both feet are planted, both knees are bent. If you need to adjust this at all, or if you need a break or a different height of prop underneath the sacrum, please take the time to do that. Otherwise, maybe just slightly tuck the tailbone, lift the pelvis just a little bit, set the pelvis back down with a little bit more length in the lumbar spine if you can. So it could be just a very subtle adjustment to make that happen. We'll move on to the second side, starting off by hugging the left knee into the chest. You can wrap the hands around the shin if there's not a lot of tension in the shoulders or back of that left thigh. We're just going to hug that left knee in close for a little bit here. And then option to extend the right leg forward. If you are extending the right leg forward, let that leg be heavy and relaxed. The right heel might not come all the way down to the ground, but over time with breath and patience, it might. It might not. But can you be attached to the outcome here? The purpose of this practice is tapping into parasympathetic nervous system response, not a particular shape, right? So we're tapping into our rest and digest, our ability to self-regulate, so key and important. Let's start to take the hands around the left thigh, back of the left thigh, if they're not already there. Make that little stirrup. Let your arms go towards straight. So if you were to look at me right now, you'd see my knee joint stacked right on top of my hip joint on that left side. That's kind of what we're aiming for. Left foot starts to extend up towards the ceiling. Leg might not get all the way straight, and that's okay too. Start to rebend the left knee. And continue to move with the breath. So when the foot moves up towards the ceiling, we're extending through that leg, we're extending through the knee joint in particular. And when we bend the knee, we're flexing the knee. We're moving, if you're interested in anatomy at all, in anatomical terms of movement. Extension is when the knee is straight. Flexion is when the knee is bent. A couple more times here. This is really good for the joints and muscles to increase blood flow. And blood flow is what's really integral to healing anything that's strained or torn in the body. One more time. Good. And then we're going to let the arms go and set the left foot down, keeping the knee bent at first. And just maybe spread the arms wide, broaden across the chest. And you can choose to stay here just like this, because that can be a lot. So if your low back is already talking to you pretty loudly, listen to it. Maybe you stay here. Or if you're feeling like it's a good idea to move into extension on both legs, you can extend that left leg long. So again, your sensation is going to depend on a couple of things. The degree to which the tissue in the target area is tight and the surrounding muscles. Okay, so again, I'll say that. Your sensation in your body is going to depend on, number one, the degree to the tissue being tight in the target area and the surrounding muscles. So it's just something to note. How intense is this for you? Do you need to back out? Okay, and then second, the height of our props, right? How high is the thing that's underneath the base of the pelvis? That is either going to increase sensation or decrease sensation. And so I say this to remind you to choose wisely what you were doing and how you were doing it. It's not always wise to fling yourself into the most depth because we're looking to relax the muscles. We're looking to drop into a deep, full belly breath. And if there's too much tension in the shape, if there's too much stress on the muscle and the surrounding tissue, you will not be able to do that effectively. Let's spend a few moments in silence here, following the breath. Let's take about 2 to 3 more breath cycles in our current shape. If both legs are in extension, just one at a time, start by bending the left knee, plant that foot. Pause, breathe. And then nice and slow, bend the right knee, plant the right foot, and pause and breathe. Really mindful and gentle on your exit, pressing into your feet, lifting your hips up just enough so that you can slide that prop away from the sacrum. And then here I recommend walking the feet wide on the mat. And you can either let the knees just simply draw in towards one another, or you can sway the knees side to side. Certainly you could do both of those things. You could spend some time in stillness and then you could spend some time in movement. About 3 more breath cycles here, whether you're moving or whether you'd like to become still. Good. And so just as easy as you can, rolling off to a side. Just take a moment to sit up and set up our next shape. We're going to move into upper body extension, so thoracic spine, front body or front rib extension. Okay, so this is the idea of heart opening, kind of what we mean anatomically when we say heart opening. Certainly there's a residue of emotional heart opening, which actually happens. It can happen in these physical shapes because we store emotions in our body. It lives in our tissues. And so we do things physically to open that up. So too, it's very common for emotions to get released in these shapes. So you can see here I have a cushion, the one I was using underneath my pelvis. The upper 3/4 of the mat, somewhere about there, spanning the width of my mat, because that's going to support my thoracic back. And then I still have my blanket here, and actually I might suggest making your blanket a little bit thicker. This is probably going to depend on you and your neck. But again, we're keeping the neck in relationship to thoracic spine and the head relatively neutral while broadening across the chest. So I'm going to support the back of my head here, my thoracic spine, which is just right underneath my armpits. Think of it like your upper back is going to rest here on this lift. And then the top of my shoulder blades are going to go in between this depression, this little valley. If you would like, you could also take something underneath the backs of the knees, especially if your low back's feeling a little bit crunchy after that work we did. So it's a nice way to kind of get the best of both worlds. So I'm going to come to a seat and I'm going to just kind of measure this out for you. So when I lay back on this, the target areas on my armpits are just above my bolster, my cushion, and that the thing that's lifting up towards the ceiling, it's going to look like my heart's lifting up towards the ceiling. Okay. So you can check this out here with me. And then I'm going to adjust so that, look at my the shoulder head and my armpit. It's above this bolster. So see how my rib cage is flaring open, my heart is lifting, and I can spread my arms out and relax the top of my shoulder heads down towards the mat. But you don't see a lot of chin jutting up towards the ceiling. My neck is relatively neutral because I have this blanket underneath the back of my head. So height is going to vary. Height of your props is going to vary based on your anatomical structure and also based on how tight the tissues are here. So do your best to kind of explore and experiment with the height and the position of things and make adjustments until it feels like something you can settle into and breathe into with a relative sense of relaxation throughout the muscles in the body. And because the rib cage is really expanding here, there's this capacity to take really full deep breaths and expand the lung capacity. So you might focus the attention there on these deep, full inhales. But also remember that exhales are equally important, drawing the exhales out nice and long and slow. Remember, it's never too late to make adjustments in your props, especially if you're noticing that the shape is causing more tension in the body and you're not able to relax into kind of like a dull, achy sensation or a little bit of discomfort. If you're not able to relax into that, then you probably want to change the height of the prop. Maybe release it down a little bit more towards the floor. Maybe get something a little bit lower. Even a folded blanket would work. And sometimes even just the simple act of lying flat on your back on the surface of a floor is enough for the spine to feel some sort of sense of extension and release. Just know that you have options. Let's take about 3 more breaths here. When you're ready, you can start to bend the knees and roll off to a side, kind of pause in fetal position. You can use the prop underneath the thoracic spine, or you can move it out of the way. Take 1 full breath here. And then let's actually get rid of our props, at least the one that's underneath the upper back, and take a few moments to lay flat on our back for a very brief Shavasana, but important, especially for alignment, when we do things like that we're not used to doing, like extending through front body. Take a few moments here to settle in to your back. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Feel your back body release. Feel your front body soften. Jaw relaxes. Muscles of the face let go. Let the breath be natural and smooth. Shavasana. Please feel free to stay longer if you have the time. If you need to move on with your day, let's start to awaken fingertips and toes. Move your head side to side. You can extend the arms overhead, breathe into the length of the body. Starting to bend the knees. When you're ready, off to a side, transitioning to a very brief upright seat. Let's just take 3 deep belly breaths if we can here. Relaxing the shoulders down the back, ears over the shoulders. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, settle. Twice more like that. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more breath round. And finally, invitation to join me to close our practice. Hands together at the heart, chin to the chest, honoring this practice with reverence and gratitude. May you remember that you will always be okay. Find a light that guides you and keeps you safe. And have hope, help, and happiness along the way. Namaste, yogis. All right, thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you enjoy. I hope you take a little bit of this essence off of your mat and into your daily life. Share it. Take care, yogis.